It is wonderful how God is using both men and women to share the loving message of Christ. Today, we'll be focusing on the women, and our special guest will let you know about what women are doing in the South Bahamas Conference. This is Around the Conference, and I am Barrington Brennan today, sitting in for Pastor Paul Scavala, our host. And we know you'll be richly blessed, because I have with me today a special guest, the Director of Women's Ministries for the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Mrs. Jacqueline V. Gibson. Welcome, Madam Gibson, to Around the Conference.
Thank you, Pastor Brennan.
We're delighted to have you here today, and you're here to share about women's ministries over the past 4 years in the South Bahamas Conference. You are the Director for Women's Ministries.
Yes.
Now, since we're doing it this way, why don't you share in 30 seconds, what is women's ministries in the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists?
Women's Ministries is a department of the South Bahamas Conference where we empower and nurture the women in our churches and do outreach to those women who are not of our faith.
Well, that's wonderful. And to my observation, I've seen where the women's ministries are doing a tremendous job in working with the whole church in changing lives. And you are here also to share about the scope of work and what you've done in women's ministries over the past 4 years. And one thing I discovered, that there were some dynamic themes that colored the 5 years. So share with us from 2015 to this year, what are those themes that the women's ministries had that empowered you?
Okay, in 2015, we chose the theme, the soaking.
The soaking?
The soaking.
You mean like soaking clothes in water, you mean?
Well, my vision was, I felt that in order for us to be effective, we needed to be soaked with the Holy Spirit.
Oh, okay.
So that was the path we were on, to nurture and empower ourselves and to be filled with the Holy Spirit so that we could then reach other women. In 2016, we chose the theme, if he can use anything, he can use me.
Okay.
And that was on the premise that God can use anyone to do his work. We just need to be willing and available.
Okay.
And
God has been using the
he
women.
He has.
In sharing and serving and preaching and changing lives.
Absolutely.
Praise
Absolutely.
the Lord. Okay.
In 2017, we decided that we would enlist to serve. Even though we were members, some of us were no longer active. So while I asked the women to take another look at women's ministries, we as a body decided that we were going to enlist again, as in enlisting in God's army.
So the theme was enlist to serve.
Enlist to serve.
Okay.
And then in 2018, the theme was, I am not ashamed of the gospel. We had soaked ourselves with the Holy Spirit. We had asked God to use us. We had enlisted or re-enlisted to serve. And then we were just bold for Christ.
Okay, and that it's good to hear these themes, and they must have been agents of change and action among the women.
They were prayerfully thought about.
Yes, that's wonderful. And what I've noticed is that so many women in all the churches in the South Bahamas Conference, in particular Nassau and some family islands, have come together, energized, and really joining the men in making the gospel sweeter.
Yes.
For all of
Well,
us.
Pastor Brennan, I must interject here that you have been very influential in my ministry, because I can't forget the sermon that you preached where you said that we must make the gospel attractive.
Okay.
And so I told the ladies, because you know how women are. Sometimes sometimes we don't want to get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
We don't want to get our feet dirty. But these are the only hands and feet God has. But it also means that we can be feminine.
Yeah.
We can be beautiful. We can be attractive while still serving.
That's right.
So that was the message that I wanted to get across,
All
that we
right.
must make the gospel attractive
Okay.
and let us be the agent through which it's done.
Okay, that's powerful. And now we can share some more specifics about each year. And I can see you bubbling over, want to tell us what has been happening in the South Bahamas Conference in the Women's Ministries since 2015. So let's start there.
We have been busy. The first year, we started something new by placing the churches in zones. It was something that wasn't at first embraced because I guess it was something different. But what I understood and felt and realized was that we were all working in vacuums. So we carefully selected churches, large churches, placed them with small churches, including Family Island churches. And that is how we started our initiatives in zones. So it was supposed to serve two purposes, and it did. One was to be able to engender and foster more camaraderie among the sisters in the South Bahamas Conference, as well as those smaller churches, when they were having programs, to have the support of the bigger churches, so that it would encourage them and they could bounce ideas off the other leaders and really just work together. The first year, the initiative that we did was the hospital visitation, where each church in the conference was responsible for a week to do visitation at the hospital, and they would carry religious tracts and toiletry items. It was such an awesome experience because you never know how many needs there are until you literally go out into the field. And so it was very rewarding.
Okay.
So that is what we did the first year. So it basically took us through the year.
But let me go back. Are the zones still active?
Very active.
Through now, this
Very
year,
active.
2018?
Very active.
Okay, I do see in the
Very
local
active.
Zone A, Zone
Yes.
B, and
Yes.
on the website.
As a matter of fact, this month, Sabbath to be exact, Zone 3, we're doing prison ministries, which is all of the churches in Zone 3, the local leaders as well as some members. We would go and do prison ministry to the female inmates, because that was another thing that I felt was important to do. I knew that the conference always had a prison ministry, but I wanted a ministry that catered specifically to the female inmates.
Yeah.
So we started that, I think it was last year, and it was very, very successful. And so this Sabbath, we'll be at the prison again for our final prison ministry visit for this year.
Okay, now that's 215. Anything else in 215? And we can go to...
Oh, okay, so 215, well, every year we have a consecration service for the local leaders. The first year, which was my first year, I spoke. The second year, Sister Denora Rivera from the Inter-American Division spoke. The third year, we kind of shift gears and we just did a prayer breakfast that morning. And then this year, Sister Pauline Ramming spoke.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and go. We technically do basically fundamental things every year. So we have the consecration.
Yeah.
We have what we call Operation Jabez, which is a training for local leaders. The first year, we didn't do Operation Jabez. 2016, we did a strategic planning program training for local leaders. In 2017, we did Living Well, Thinking Well, which was an emotional wellness training, because we realized that there are women in our conference who have different issues and we wanted to be able to deal with them, to be equipped to do that. So Sister Denise Johnson came in and did that training for us. And Operation Jabez this year was looking in to get better, which was where we did so to speak, we looked at the things that we'd done in women's ministries to see what worked, what didn't work, so that we could know, okay, what can we tweak? What can we discard? What can we do better? So every year we try to have training sessions for the local leaders to equip them to serve the women in their churches.
What was a peak activity in 2016?
2016, I think 2016 was when we had our GEMS induction.
Okay, GEMS. Hold on now. You've given us a word I don't know about. What is GEMS? How do you spell that? Is that an acronym?
It is.
Gem like in jewels? What is it?
Well, they are jewels. In 2016, well, we also have yearly conclaves, which is our in reach.
Okay.
By that I mean where we bring the women of the conference together on a Sabbath for a spiritual sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2016, we had Sister Rhonda Carrodus from the Southeastern Conference to come in to speak to us.
Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
And the afternoon of that Sabbath, we had a GEMS induction. You know, as I sat with my team, when I assumed the role of Women's Ministries Director, I felt that if we didn't have a succession plan for the ministry, it may die, or it would die. And I realized that as I looked around, there weren't a lot of young girls, young women who, for whatever reason, seemed interested in women's ministries.
Okay.
The perception was it's for old married women. They just sit around and drink tea. And I'm like, no. That's not what we do.
No, you don't do that
I
at all.
certainly don't.
No way.
So we had the GEMS program, which is Girls Empowered for Ministry and Service.
That's the meaning of GEMS. Girls Empowered
for Ministry and Service.
Okay.
And we actually had over 150 girls who pledged.
When you say girls, what's the age?
At that time, it was 13 to 26.
Okay.
Because I felt that those young girls into junior high school and those into college and those just on the brink of 30, we needed to capture them.
Okay, let's pause right here because we got some more to share on that. We want to take a break.
Okay.
Let's just take a break right now. We will be right back. At the beginning of August, our radio station, Word SBC 88.3 FM, went off air. The reason it went off air was because of malfunction of our radio transmitter. Since then, we have been working diligently to solve the problem, working with professionals locally in the area and some abroad. We will soon be back on air. I know you've been asking questions, but we have not been idle. We have been working. It's a tremendous amount of work. We hopefully will be on air temporarily if things work out with a temporary transmitter until our new transmitter comes. We have ordered a 3,500 watts brand new transmitter coming out of Miami, and that will take a couple weeks to come. Also, you would notice that our transmitter cannot work well without having a tower. A brand new tower we hope to order soon, which will be 150 feet tall. But in order for our radio station to work properly, we have to do some checking on the quality or the ability of the current antenna to do so. That will happen hopefully next week. Hopefully, if that works out okay, we will be able to be on air with a transmitter that was loaned to us for about a few weeks while we purchase our new radio transmitter. Thank you so much for being patient with us. We're not sleeping over this. We're working diligently, hard, so we can solve this problem, because Word SBC is the vibrant, energetic, really special radio station in the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists that we know is changing lives every day. Welcome back to Around the Conference, and we are sharing with Jacqueline V. Gibson, Women's Ministries Director of the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. I am Barrington Brennan. We finished our first segment talking about GEMS, and you were defining GEMS. Tell us more about GEMS and what's all about and where is it heading?
Well, the GEMS program, though still in its embryonic stage, I must say that there are some churches who have embraced it. Again, as with anything new, you would have some level of trepidation. But I think that it's catching on. I think parents are even more appreciative of the program because our GEMs are very active. You have some churches that are almost overactive, which is very, very good. So our GEMs have come together. They've had vision board parties where they set their goals, know where they're going. Some of our GEMs are doing tremendous outreach. They're baking bread.
So, what are the functions or the dynamics or the scope of the function of GEMS?
Well,
what's the purpose? What they doing?
The purpose of GEMS is to get those young girls to fall in love with Jesus early, to fall in love with ministry, and to understand that their place in the church is to matriculate into women's ministries.
Okay.
We don't want them to get lost. We don't want them to get disinterested.
So you're helping them to fall in love with themselves too.
Themselves and with Jesus, and to understand the role that they play in finishing this work.
Okay.
So we do activities to empower them, to motivate them, and to show them that there's a world outside of our four walls
Okay.
of church.
So in any other activity that stands on your mind for 2016, so we can go on to 2017.
2016, we did a tremendous outreach in Long Island.
Long Island.
One of the things
My
that
ancestral birthplace.
okay, one of the things that I made special attention to is to ensure that our family island women are not feeling
They're included.
yes, that they feel included. So, like I told you earlier, the family island churches are also zoned, and so they're in constant communication with us. Of course, you know, we have a women's ministries leaders WhatsApp group. So they're
You do?
oh, we do. Very active group.
Wow.
So that is where I send them inspiration.
I'm just nosy. How many women are
In
on
that
this?
group?
Yes.
Plenty.
Plenty.
Because what
In
happens
the
is
Bahamas, plenty is 500 to 1,000.
no, we don't have that many. But what happens is from year to year, you know, sometimes leaders change.
Yes.
So I would ask them, okay, if you're not a leader next year, do you still wish to be a part of the group? Nobody has dropped out. So we have leaders from 2015 who may not be serving successive years, but they're still in the group. So, you know, we have like 20-something churches in Nassau, and then the Family Island churches, and then other women are also in the group, but it's predominantly leaders for the local churches. So I make sure that we reach out to the Family Island women. And as a matter of fact, I've made it my mission to touch every island in the South Bahamas Conference except Inagua and North Andres.
You have traveled there.
I've traveled to every one of them.
Wow.
I've only missed Inagua because of flight scheduling,
Yes.
because I work full time.
That's right.
So you have to leave Friday and take a Monday.
Again,
And then when I was supposed to go to North Andres, there was a system.
yes.
So those were the only two islands that I haven't visited. So Exuma, Cat Island, South Andres, Long Island, Eleuthera, San Salvador, Crooked Island.
Wow, you have been a
Yes.
traveling woman.
Yes. Well,
And your
I
team.
needed them to know that they're a part of us.
Good, and that must have been special for you personally.
It was.
You know,
And then I realized how beautiful the islands of the Bahamas,
Yeah.
how beautiful
So
the
you
islands
can-
are.
You've selected your vacation spot or your retirement.
Crooked Island.
Yeah. Okay.
So in 2016, we did an outreach in Long Island, which was awesome. And what we did, the highlight of that trip for me was the Sunday morning, we did outreach in the community for old and at-home members, not just Adventists, non-Adventists, and Adventists.
Okay.
And so they were quite pleased that
Oh,
we
that's
came, and we, of
wonderful.
course, we gave them goodie bags
Okay.
and tracts. So that was the highlight of 2016.
So let's jump ahead to 2017.
217.
What stands out? Do we have just a few minutes?
Oh,
what stands
okay.
out
In 217, I think the highlight of our outreach was the Baby Bottle Project.
Baby bot. Yeah, I remember seeing that
Yes.
baby, that graphic design
Yes.
and all that. Yeah.
What
Tell us about that.
What that was the Bahamas Godparents Association. They mentor and help unwed mothers.
That's a national program, not the church's
No,
program.
no, no,
That's
right.
a national
Yes.
program.
And so because we try for our outreach to be really outreach,
Yeah.
non-Adventists in the community.
Yes, yeah.
And so they try to give young unwed mothers an option as opposed to abortion. So the women were
Wow.
excited. We filled hundreds and hundreds of baby bottles
No, wait,
with
could you
coins.
pause it? You say an option as opposed to abortion. Are you suggesting that you knew of persons who might have been pregnant and thinking about abortion, or this was just being proactive? But
The center does.
okay.
The center
the
does.
center,
The Godparents Association, they
okay.
do.
And so you work with them.
We did the initiative in
That's-
conjunction with them.
That's very powerful.
So we filled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of baby bottles.
Yeah, I
I think
remember.
the first year we got almost $800 in coins that we were able to give to them. And it was such a powerful initiative that we actually did it again.
So you're saying people put coins in baby bottles?
The women, I think it was a Zone 2 initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So the women's ministry leaders for Zone 2, with women in their churches, each got empty bottles,
Empty baby bottles.
empty baby bottles,
Fill them with coins.
filled them with coins, asked the church members and their
And turn
persons
them
on their
in.
jobs and turned them in. And then we had a baby shower at the Bahamas Godparents Association where we presented the bottles to them.
Yeah, and a total about $800.
Yes.
That's great. And
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So what about now, 218? Because we need to come on. Something special is coming up in Grand
Yes.
Bahamas soon. We got to
Yes.
talk about it before we end.
Yes.
What's happening now in
Well,
218?
2018, we did a powerful outreach at the Golden Gates Shopping Center.
Okay.
The churches in that zone decided that I think it was Zone 1, they decided that we were going to have an expo on a Sabbath afternoon where we showcased samples of vegetarian food. We had persons there doing blood pressure and diabetes checks. We had different healthy drinks. We gave away literature. But, as people went into the food stores and other places in the plaza, we invited them to come over. And scores of people came, men and women.
Okay.
So that was very, 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 very touching. Other than that, we've consistently done Sandilands. We do visits there. We do visits to the children's home. We took scores and scores
You mean
of
Children's Emergency Hospital?
the Children Emergency Hostel.
And Rantville Home?
Yes. Well, we
Okay.
haven't did the Ranfley Home, but we did the Children's Emergency Hostel where we took items for school, food items.
Mhm.
We've done the elderly home on East Street South.
Okay.
And then our local, now those would have been conference initiatives, but of course our local churches, they do their own initiatives. Like
Okay.
the Johnson Park Church did a feeding day for their second shut-in members. You have, of course, the regular tea parties, the prayer breakfasts.
And you had a conference. Was it last year? You
Well, we
invited a guest at
hosted-
Malaya Hotel?
We hosted the ATCU retreat.
The Atlantic Caribbean
Yes,
Union's
yes,
Women's
we
Ministries.
did that here
Okay.
last year. That was a very, very wonderful city.
There's something special you're doing in 2018. Tell us about it quickly.
Well, what we did, Pastor Brennan, was 3 random acts of kindness.
3 random acts of kindness.
Yes, we went to the Gambia Clinic,
Gambia Clinic.
we went to the Oncology Clinic,
Oncology Clinic.
and we went to the Cancer Center. And we took them warm, fuzzy blankets, cups of soup, and literature and tea for those ladies who come for chemotherapy
Okay.
to use and have while they're having treatment.
That's wonderful. When you say random, you mean you didn't announce to them you were coming?
We told them we were coming, but we didn't say why we were coming.
Ah,
So they were quite surprised and pleased
oh, that
with
is
the items
wonderful.
that we brought.
That's special.
And I would also like to encourage the women to tune into our radio programs that we have. We have Pretty Purse, we have She Speaks, and we have Women Empowerment.
So let's dive right into that. That's coming up
Yes,
in a few weeks.
yes, yes.
It's the Women's Ministries
It's at-
Conference
yes,
for the Atlantic
Caribbean
Caribbean,
Union.
meaning Jamaica. Sorry, don't let me say that. The Bahamas, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos. That's
And-
North and
yes.
South Bahamas. 4
Yes.
conferences. Tell us about it.
And then Turks. Well, the North Bahamas Conference is hosting the event this year.
That's in Grand Bahama.
Yes, so we're traveling to them.
That's right.
I'm pleased to say that we have about 50 women from
The
South Bahamas Conference
Okay.
who've registered for the retreat, the conference.
Okay.
So we will head out it's from the 19th to the 21st of October.
Okay.
So we will head out to spend some time with our sisters there.
And so persons are coming to Grand Bahama from Turks and Caicos,
Cayman Islands,
and
South Bahamas
Conference.
Conference. Yes.
And of course the North. So we're
Yes.
expecting a couple hundred women
Yes,
there.
yes.
Is there a special theme and special guests that are coming?
The theme is Because I Care.
Okay.
Because I Care. The speaker is Sister Platt McDonald. I don't know her personally, but I understand that she's a very good speaker.
Yes, she's from England, I think.
Okay,
I think she's coming from Europe.
okay,
I had the privilege of meeting her once before. Yes, a
okay.
vibrant woman. So she'll be here to speak as
Yes.
the guest
Speaker for
featured
the North,
speaker
yes.
for the North, which is
Yes.
sponsored by the Atlantic Caribbean Union
Correct.
Conference of
Correct.
Seventh-day Adventists. So what do you want to say more about that conference that's coming up?
I want to encourage, now registration is closed.
Yes.
We do know how we are with deadlines, but if you have family members in Grand Bahama, you can still feel free to hop on a plane and come. Our services are all free.
Mhm.
So Friday evening and Sabbath and Sunday morning, you're able to come and listen to the services, and we'll be happy to have you.
Yes, that's beautiful. You know, Jacqueline, it's so wonderful to hear you share about a vibrant ministry in our conference, women's ministries. You set an example for many ministries and activities in our church, and we appreciate all you have done and will continue to do in this ministry. We know God is using both men, women, boys, and girls to be active in sharing the gospel, in demonstrating the gospel, and in making the gospel attractive. So we're so happy to have you with us today here around the conference, and may God continue to bless you. And I know you're going to be excited when you go to Grand Bahama to be a part of that event.
Yes.
And I'm sure you viewers have enjoyed our interview today with Jacqueline V. Gibson, our Women's Ministries Director for South Bahamas Conference. You are watching Around the Conference, hosted by Pastor Paul Scavala and Barrington Brennan, sitting in for him today. Around the Conference is a weekly news-centered program where the President and the Secretariat offer you and share with you special events and news for the South Bahamas Conference. So what island you're living in, wherever you are, we hope that you have enjoyed this program today, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you for viewing.